Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'd like to share the story of the dragon God beliefs surrounding Lake Biwa. After the explanation, I will tell you a horror story of my own creation. So please stay until the end. First, let me introduce Lake Biwa and the fascinating dragon god faith associated with it. Lake Biwa is Japan's oldest and largest lake, with a history spanning over 4 million years, making it a rare ancient lake globally. With a maximum depth of approximately 104 meters, it is believed that countless mysteries lie dormant at its bottom, far beyond human understanding. The lake's history far predates human civilization, and traces of ancient cultures are said to be sleeping at its depths. A 2012 survey revealed ritual artifacts at a depth of 70 meters, possibly dating back to ancient times. This discovery suggests that human activity around Lake Biwa has a history far older than previously thought. Especially intriguing are the traditions tied to the worship of dragon gods. Ancient civilizations worldwide have legends of dragons, or serpents associated with bodies of water. This universal pattern reflects what could be seen as a collective human subconscious. In Norse mythology, for example, Jormungandr, the great serpent of Midgard, lives in the ocean surrounding the world, sometimes manifesting as violent storms or tsunamis. Jormungandr is prophesied to play a crucial role in Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, facing the thunder god Thor in a final battle. In Mesopotamian mythology, Tiamat, the goddess of chaos, embodies the sea, and from her body, the heavens and earth were formed. Often depicted as a dragon or serpent, she fought a grand battle with the god Marduk before being defeated. Her body split to create the world. Celtic mythology is filled with lake guardians, many of which have dragon or serpent forms. The Afonk, for example, is a legendary lake creature from Britain, often depicted as a giant amphibian that occasionally appears on land in human form. This tale shares surprising similarities with Lake Biwa's own dragon legends. In Chinese mythology, the four dragon kings govern the seas of the four directions, and are revered as powerful deities. They are believed to take human form, and sometimes interfere in the human world, even seeking human souls. This closely mirrors Lake Biwa's tales. The feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl, an Aztec god, is also known to be closely tied to water. Although a god of wisdom and creation, he also has a destructive aspect, a duality common among water deities. In Japan, dragon worship exists in many regions. However, the dragon god beliefs surrounding Lake Biwa have distinct and unusual characteristics. Since ancient times, 7 dragon gods are believed to reside in the lake. These dragon gods are not merely mythological figures, but are depicted as complex beings. One particularly fascinating aspect is the legend that these dragon gods can appear in human form. A document from 724 AD describes mysterious figures emerging from the lake on moonlit nights. These beings sometimes help fishermen, bringing them plentiful catches, yet at other times, they lure people into the depths, inspiring both awe and fear. Archaeological discoveries lend scientific weight to these legends. In a 1976 excavation, artifacts from dragon-worshipping rituals dating back to Japan's Nara period over 1,300 years ago were uncovered. Among these items were bronze dragon ornaments and enigmatic stone tablets inscribed with mysterious symbols. Modern science has yet to explain certain characteristics of these artifacts. In a 2008 detailed survey, Faint electromagnetic waves were detected from specific tablets. These waves were similar to human theta brainwaves, baffling researchers. The analysis of the bronze ornament's composition revealed further interesting findings. The technology used in its crafting was surprisingly advanced for its time, with precise temperature control and alloy ratios that are still accurate, even by modern standards. Even more intriguing are inscriptions found on these artifacts. Regarding soul inheritance, the inscriptions describe a ritual through which people could temporarily offer their souls to the dragon god in exchange for supernatural powers. However, the cost was apparently greater than anticipated. Records indicate that many who performed the ritual gradually lost their sanity, and most reportedly vanished into the lake. Their bodies never recovered. Interestingly, these rituals were said to be performed every 7 years. According to ancient records, on the night of a full moon, 7 priests would be chosen, each fulfilling a specific role. The monk offers prayers, the warrior demonstrates strength, the merchant presents wealth, the priest preserves faith, the teacher imparts wisdom, the living person sacrifices life, and the final one becomes the embodiment of the dragon god's will. Even today, shrines around Lake Biwa hold special ceremonies, particularly on full moon nights, during which strange occurrences are frequently reported. Local elders share such sayings. Something unseen still sleeps at the lake's bottom. On moonlit nights, the shadow on the lake's surface may not always be your own. Those who hear the dragon god's voice are eventually called to the lake. These legends cannot simply be dismissed as superstition, as unexplainable phenomena continue to occur at Lake Biwa to this day. In the dead of night, strange sounds can be heard coming from the lake, resembling both a human voice and an animal growl. Fishermen report sightings of enormous shadows, unexplained whirlpools that radar cannot detect, and these reports have increased since 2015. Especially notable are the mysterious relics found at the lake's bottom. In a 2019 survey, multiple stones containing elements absent in common rocks were found. Their composition does not match any known minerals on Earth, leaving scientists baffled. Most mysterious of all are the faint electromagnetic waves emitted by these stones. The pattern of these waves closely resembles human theta brainwaves, and, incredibly, these waves intensify on full moon nights. Additionally, old documents frequently describe Lake Biwa as the lake with a soul. This phrase hints at the belief that Lake Biwa itself may possess consciousness. Indeed, periodic vibrations have been detected from the lake's bottom, though the cause remains unknown. Since 2020, strange disappearances have frequently occurred around Lake Biwa. A notable pattern is that many missing persons reported hearing voices from the lake before vanishing. They also often exhibited unusual behavior before their disappearance. Researchers are also focused on unexplained water level fluctuations during full moons that defied tidal and weather patterns. The fluctuation cycle matches the ritual cycles recorded in ancient documents in an uncanny way. Local fishermen have detailed sightings of shadowy figures on the lake's surface on full moon nights, but when they try to approach, the figures disappear into the water. Even more unsettling is that these figures sometimes resemble familiar people. It is especially curious that these phenomena intensify every 7 years, perfectly matching the ritual cycles recorded in ancient documents. Now, allow me to tell you my story inspired by Lake Biwa's dragon god lore. Whispers from the Depths. Legend of the Soul Eater. This story is based on an archaeological record left behind. To you, who are reading this now, what follows is a record of events at Lake Biwa. I can no longer determine if this is a product of my sanity or madness, nor can we, for I am no longer alone. Everything began 3 months ago with an archaeological survey in northern Lake Biwa. I was one of the survey members dispatched from Kyoto University's archaeology department, excavating relics from the lake's depths. On September 13th, at 2:15 p.m., at a depth of 38 meters, our routine survey was underway. In the murky water, relying on the faint light of our underwater lamps, we searched for traces of the ancient past. I was conducting standard recording in grid E7. Suddenly, something strange happened. The light caught something that shimmered in 7 colors, as if it had a will of its own. At first, I thought it was equipment malfunction. However, the light's movements had a clear rhythm, as if they were conveying a message. I radioed the other team members, but it seemed that only I could see the light. It grew brighter, blinking as if beckoning me. Logic told me to stop. One of the core rules of underwater archaeology is never to act alone. But my body moved on its own toward the light. Approximately 20 meters outside our designated survey area, I found something remarkable: a stone tablet with an obsidian-like gloss. The surface was inscribed with unreadable symbols, and the center bore a dragon pattern with 7 swirling coils, its eyes gleaming like jewels. My dive computer warned me I had only 10 minutes of dive time remaining. Standard procedure would have been to report to the surface and take photos and location data without moving the artifact. But I took the tablet back to my lab without consulting anyone. In hindsight, perhaps my mind was already being influenced. The moment I touched the tablet, a strange sensation coursed through my fingers, a faint current, yet something more alive. That night, everything began to change. The first strange occurrence happened just before I went to bed that night. At 11:23 p.m., as I was about to rest in the research facility's lodging, I heard faint whispers, as if echoing from the lake's depths. It wasn't just sound, it was as if something was trying to convey an ancient message. Gradually, the words became clearer, and I found myself beginning to understand their meaning. Come to us, chosen one. The time of the ritual draws near. Thinking I was simply exhausted, I took a sleeping pill and went to bed. But the dream I had that night was unlike any other. In the dream, I found myself inside an ancient temple. 7 altars, illuminated solely by moonlight, were arranged in a vast hall. Each altar bore a bronze dragon statue, its eyes gleaming as though alive. As the chants of monks reverberated through the room, I was drawn to the 7th altar. When I awoke, something within me had changed irreversibly. At 7:15 a.m., when I looked in the mirror in the bathroom, I was shaken. The face staring back at me felt like my own and yet strangely unfamiliar. It was indeed my face, but there was an eerie difference. My left iris had a slight bluish tint, and my pupil seemed faintly elongated. That day, everything in the lab felt oddly unreal. Conversations with my colleagues sounded distant. The letters on the documents I read seemed to dance. Occasionally, I saw something at the edge of my vision. When I turned to look, there was nothing there. The tablet, in particular, was unsettling. Under the fluorescent lights, the carved patterns on its surface seemed to move ever so slightly. The dragon's eye in the center seemed to stare back at me. I attempted to photograph it, but strangely, the camera captured nothing. Over the following days, strange changes began to occur in my body. First, my palms started to sweat. But it was no ordinary sweat, it was slightly viscous with a faint bluish tint. My fingertips grew numb, as if something beneath my skin was pulsating unnaturally. Even more alarming was the memory loss. I increasingly found myself waking up in unfamiliar places. As the full moon approached, these occurrences intensified. On the night of September 20th, I came to my senses standing before an ancient shrine by Lake Biwa. My watch read 247 a.m. My clothes were wet with lake water, and I held what appeared to be an old ritual tool. I had no recollection of how I got there. Inside the shrine was an ancient incense burner, the ashes still warm. It was evident I had performed some ritual, though I couldn't remember the details. There was a fresh wound on my palm, and words written in blood appeared on the shrine's wall. A week later, he awoke within me. This happened late at night in the lab while I was examining the tablet. At 1115 p.m. on September 27th, I was observing the tablet's patterns when I was suddenly struck by intense pain. My vision blurred, a ringing sounded in my ears, and another personality emerged to the forefront of my mind. He claimed to be a monk from the Nara period, a ritualist of the dragon god ceremony in the year 743. Memories flooded into me like a deluge. August 15, 743, a full moon night. The ritual was conducted in a secret ceremony at an ancient temple. 7 altars stood solemnly on the platform, each bearing a bronze dragon statue. The chanting monks' voices grew louder, resonating as though the entire lake vibrated with them. The temple floor was covered in strange symbols, drawn with ink mixed with sacrificial blood. The spiral patterns seemed to writhe as if alive. 7 monks knelt before the altars, their eyes turning blue. Among them was he, and I could recall every detail of the ritual vividly. As the lake surface turned red, the monks began to transform. Their skin took on a bluish tint, then membranes formed between their fingers, and gill-like structures appeared on their necks. Finally, an unearthly sound echoed from the lake's depths, neither human nor animal. The voice of him resonated within my consciousness. The ritual has already begun. Our time has come. Chosen one, offer your soul. The monk's voice began chanting in an ancient language, and in response, the symbols on the tablet glowed faintly. A pale blue light flickered ominously in the darkened lab. The equipment on my desk started vibrating inexplicably. But this was only the beginning. Soon, new personalities began to awaken one after another. The personality of a warrior from the Kamakura period emerged 3 days later. On October 1st, at 317 a.m., by the window under the full moon, the spirit of a warrior seeking immense power came forward. His memories were filled with blood-stained swords and the shadow of something enormous reflected on the lake's surface. I vividly recalled his life. He was a fugitive in the first year of the Einan era, with no lord to protect him, desperately seeking strength to survive. By moonlight, he conducted a forbidden ritual described in an ancient scroll. As the ritual progressed, he underwent a terrifying transformation. First, scales appeared on his fingers, gradually spreading across his body. Under his skin, blood vessels pulsated in chaotic rhythms, forming a new circulatory system. I need power, greater power, to defeat my enemies and face my lord. For this body and soul, I offer myself to the lake's master. That night, the lake turned as red as blood. and he forged a pact with something that emerged from the depths. Though he obtained power, his human consciousness was gradually eroded, until he finally disappeared into the lake. Meanwhile, conditions in the lab continued to worsen. The first to show symptoms was my colleague, Sasaki. On October 3rd, at 3:45 p.m., in the archive room, I noticed a distinct change in Sasaki's voice. His usual vibrant tone became muffled, as if he were speaking from underwater. By evening, his voice had changed entirely. Sasaki's eyes, too, began showing a striking transformation. His pupils lengthened vertically, and his irises turned deep blue. His skin took on a bluish hue, becoming icy cold to the touch. On October 5th, at 10:23 a.m., Sasaki suddenly approached my workstation. His eyes reflected light like those of a deep-sea fish, glowing unnaturally. Under the fluorescent lab lights. Yamada, you can hear it too, can't you? His voice was barely human. The voice from the lake's depths. The voice calling us. I will never forget his expression, a tortured look, as if torn between human reason and some unknown compulsion. Beads of sweat, sticky and faintly bluish, glistened on his forehead. I can see them, he continued, his voice trembling. There, in the depths the seven. In mid-sentence, Sasaki convulsed and suddenly started shouting in an ancient language. That night, another personality awakened. The memories of an Edo period merchant flowed into my consciousness. Year 1701. The memory of an Omi merchant, burdened by enormous debt, came vividly to life. One moonlit night, as he walked by the lake, a beautiful woman appeared from the waves. She wore translucent robes that billowed around her, her long black hair flowing gracefully as if from an ukiyo-e painting. Yet her eyes shone with an unnatural blue, and the sight of gill-like structures on her neck was even more disturbing. I'll give you gold. Her deep voice echoed as if from underwater. Anything you desire. Her eyes gleamed as if piercing to the depths of his soul. In exchange, I'll take your soul. She handed him a small blue gem as a sign of their contract. The gem emitted a faint glow that pulsed as if alive. The moment it touched his hand, a cold shock spread throughout his body. From that day, his fortune changed dramatically. His business thrived, and his debt was swiftly repaid. But with each success, his body began to undergo terrifying changes. Thin membranes started forming between his fingers, growing with each passing day. His skin took on a blue tinge, and his touch grew unnaturally cold. Eventually, gills appeared on his neck, just like the woman. He tried to throw the gem back into the lake in fear. But by then, it was too late. His soul was forever trapped in the lake, and his body slowly lost its human form. As these memories filled my mind, even stranger phenomena unfolded in the lab. On October 7th, at 4:12 p.m., strange changes appeared on Chief Tanaka's skin. It developed a scaly texture, starting as small patches on his neck, and gradually spreading across his body. Under the light, the pattern shimmered, beautiful yet eerie. Next, Suzuki's fingers began to change. Thin webbing formed between them, and despite her attempts to hide it, I could hear her typing growing increasingly awkward each day. Inoue, a junior colleague, underwent the most dramatic transformation. One morning, he started speaking in ancient languages. His modern and ancient words blended together, as if multiple personalities were alternating. His desk was found littered with drawings of strange spiral patterns, repeated over and over in frantic strokes. Then, on the eve of the full moon, October 10th, a new personality awakened. The memories of a Shinto priest from the Meiji period flooded into my consciousness, determined to preserve ancient faith amidst modernization. The priest's memories became vivid. Year 1872, a time when old rites were forbidden under government policy. The priest secretly continued dragon god worship in the temple's hidden chamber. The ancient scrolls there contained detailed descriptions of the entity dwelling beneath the lake. The scrolls contained cryptic prophecies about 7 souls. When the time is ripe, the 7 vessels shall gather. The first soul offers prayer as a monk. The second seeks power as a warrior. The third drowns in wealth as a merchant. The fourth protects faith as a priest. The fifth holds knowledge as a teacher. The sixth sacrifices life as one among the living. And the seventh is the incarnation of the lake's master. As he pursued the truth within the scrolls, the priest gradually lost his sanity. His final diary entries contained chilling words. My soul no longer belongs to man. I have become the lake master's servant, bound forever. And now, a new vessel has been chosen. As his memories filled my mind, strange phenomena escalated in the lab. On October 11th, at 2:15 a.m., while preparing to leave after a late-night task, all the lights suddenly went out. Even the emergency lights failed, plunging the lab into complete darkness. But in that darkness, I saw a kind of light. A pale blue glow emanated from the tablet, pulsing as if alive. On the wall illuminated by that glow, a shadow appeared, but it wasn't my shadow. The shadow morphed and multiplied into 7 distinct figures, each resembling the personalities within me. The final shadow, however, was far from human. On October 12th, the night of the full moon, the final personality awakened a teacher from the Taisho period who had researched the legends of Lake Biwa. His memories included records of numerous disappearances and the transformation of his students. In 1922, he taught history at a local high school. While researching the lake's legends, one day, a student brought him an ancient documenta forbidden scroll detailing how to obtain the power of the dragon god. This scroll revealed a shocking truth that differed from all prior records. The dragon god was not merely a deity, but an embodiment of something that had existed since ancient times, and it ceaselessly sought human souls. The teacher involved his students in his research. However, inexplicable phenomena began to occur, and one by one, the students involved in the research vanished. The last entry in a surviving student's diary read, "Each day, the teacher's eyes turn a deeper shade of blue. Our bodies, too, are changing in the same way. And at night, we hear voices calling from the lake." The teacher's final record contained haunting words. "We have pursued the truth too far. We have learned what was never meant to be known. And now, I too am among them." When these memories flooded my consciousness, the entire laboratory shook with an unnatural vibration. Water trickled down the walls, thick and viscous, glowing with a pale blue light. Strange puddles formed on the floor, giving the illusion of something writhing within them. And then, I made a horrifying discovery. While closely examining the patterns on the tablet, under ultraviolet light, new inscriptions appeared. Pay close attention to the dragon's eye with 7 spirals, for within it is reflected the face of the chosen one. With trembling hands, I held a magnifying glass to the dragon's eye. What I saw was the faces of each of the 7 personalities within me. The monk from the Nara period, who offered prayers and communicated with the dragon god. The warrior from the Kamakura period who sought power and sacrificed his soul. the merchant from the Edo period, who was consumed by wealth and made an eternal contract, the priest from the Meiji period, who clung to ancient beliefs and descended into darkness, the teacher from the Taisho period, who pursued the truth and vanished with his students, and me, the present-day archaeologist. But the seventh face was not human. It was an ancient, unknowable entity, a presence that had slumbered beneath the lake since time immemorial. The moment I saw its face, something irreversible happened within my consciousness. The final personality had awakened. It was not a human soul, but the very consciousness of the ancient being sleeping beneath the lake. Through our seven souls, it was now on the verge of opening a gateway to this world. The security cameras in the lab captured a shocking sight. One by one, my colleagues walked toward the lake. Each of them wore a vacant expression, as if guided by an unseen force. There were exactly 7 of them. They, too, were chosen as sacrifices in another ritual. On October 13th, at 11:59 p.m., as the full moon reached its peak, everything became clear. My body had transformed to the point where it was no longer human. The face in the mirror no longer resembled my own. My eyes had become fully those of a dragon. Gills had formed on my neck, and my skin had a bluish hue, dotted with faintly glowing spots. Outside the window, a thick mist blanketed the entire lake. Reflecting the moonlight, the mist seemed to writhe like a living creature, gradually creeping into the laboratory. From the lake's surface, an otherworldly light flickered, swirling in 7 colors. It looked exactly like the light I had seen at the lake's bottom. The voices within me no longer stopped. The 7 souls were on the brink of merging. Each personality left their final words. The monk from the Nara period spoke. "We are the chosen vessels. The ritual is nearly complete." His voice echoed through the lab like an ancient chant. The Kamakura warrior followed. "My foolish desire for power. But now, I have no fear." There was no regret in his voice. The Edo merchant shouted, "Gold and fame are but fleeting illusions. The true wealth lies within the lake." There was a hint of joy in his voice. The Meiji priest intoned, "The ancient gods never die. They only wait for the right time." His voice resonated like a prophet's. The Taisho teacher whispered, "Now that I know the truth, there is no going back." A sense of resignation, almost like enlightenment, filled his words. The entire building began to tremble, as if something was rising from the depths of the earth. The water trickling down the walls grew thicker, glowing with an eerie blue light. And then a final voice. It was not human, but the will of the ancient entity slumbering beneath the lake. A dark, boundless presence began to consume my consciousness entirely. The thick mist outside completely enveloped the laboratory. The entire lake pulsated as if it were a living being. At its center, a massive whirlpool began to form. At the bottom of the whirlpool, an unknown light swirled. What emerged was neither human nor dragon. It was an incarnation of primordial chaos, a being beyond human comprehension. My consciousness was fading quickly. Strangely, I no longer felt fear. Rather, I felt a sense of liberation. We were all chosen for this purpose, as the final performers of a ritual that has continued since ancient times. The lake's master was finally awakening, and our souls would serve as its vessels. This is the true form of the being that humanity has feared and revered since time immemorial. The laboratory's security cameras recorded the final images. The 7 transformed figures gathered in a circle, performing some kind of ritual. Their forms no longer resembled human beings. Outside, the moon shone with an unnatural glow. Its light became a swirling rainbow that enveloped the lake's surface. The laboratory trembled as if it were alive. To you who are reading this record, whether this is the truth or a product of madness, I leave for you to decide. But remember this: on nights when Lake Biwa's surface shines more brightly than usual, if you begin to hear an unfamiliar voice within, it is a sign that they have chosen you, and you, too, may become one of the 7 souls. My consciousness will soon dissolve into eternal darkness. This will be my final record. My soul is about to enter the 7th whirlpool. Thank you for listening to my story. Lake Biwa's legends remain shrouded in countless mysteries, and sometimes, legends take form and reveal themselves before us. Next time, I hope to bring you another tale of the unknown. To everyone who stayed until the end, please subscribe to the channel. From within the darkness, I will bring you yet another story. And when you visit Lake Biwa on a full moon night, please take care. The shadow on the water's surface may not always be your own. Until we meet again, good night.